Well, folks, first rule of lawyering, tell your client to be quiet. It is a very, very bad idea for your client to go out on, say, national TV and start talking about a criminal indictment. Unfortunately, President Trump doesn't like listening to his lawyers so much, and that's a problem. Donald Trump was on Bret Baier's show last night. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Worst job in the world, Donald Trump's lawyer. Very, very rough job. Because if you are a lawyer, the first thing that you tell your client, particularly in a criminal case, but it's true in civil cases also, is shut up. Keep your mouth shut. This is like the very first rule. And by the way, it's not just lawyers who know this. If you've ever watched a cop show and you've ever seen a criminal defendant being taken into custody by the police, the first thing the lawyer shouts to them is, be quiet, don't say anything. One of the aspects of not saying things is don't go on national TV and say things about an ongoing criminal case. Because very likely you're going to say something that ends up in the criminal indictment. If you're his lawyers, you must have been pulling your hair out last night. He was on Bret Baier's show. And this does demonstrate not only that Donald Trump is not a good legal client, but it really leads to some serious issues for Donald Trump in the primary election. Okay, so all of this comes out in the Bret Baier interview. So it begins with Trump saying he doesn't have any worries about the federal indictment at all, which, again, maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but here's the beginning of the interview.
Mike Pence had documents that were classified.
And he turned them over.
No, he didn't turn them over. He got caught. His lawyers found some documents, and then he turned them over. Why did he have them? He shouldn't be saying that because he had classified documents. And immediately they said, oh, that's okay. And I suppose it's going to be okay with Biden, too, even though he has them in Chinatown, even though he has them in Delaware, and probably 100 times more than I have.
So you're not worried about this case?
Based on the law, zero. Presidential Records Act, plus the Clinton case, which was won by Clinton as president because he took tapes of leaders in his socks. Zero.
Okay.
Zero. And every good lawyer has said it, and you've seen that. Every good lawyer has said that.
Okay, so first of all, not true. Okay, when he says that all these other people, they had classified documents, that part is 100% true, and he's totally right about that. And if we actually read the statute to mean what the statute means, a lot of people would go to jail for mishandling classified information. The problem for Trump is, again, the obstruction charge, right? That's the real problem. And by the way, Hillary should have gone to jail for the obstruction charge. You know, it's very weird is seeing a lot of the same people who say that Hillary should have gone to jail for the obstruction charge now flipping and saying that Trump should not, be tried for the same charge. Not because, like me, you believe there should be one standard of justice. And if you're going to let somebody off, you got to let everybody off. But because the idea is that if Trump does it, it's okay. And if Hillary does it, it's not okay. That's not right. Okay, it's either wrong or it's right. But in any case, when he is talking about the Presidential Records Act, when he says all good lawyers believe what he is saying here, that's not true. He's apparently citing Tom Fitton, who's the head of Judicial Watch. I know Tom. Tom's a really good guy. Tom is not a lawyer. Okay, the reality is, according to Andy McCarthy, who is a former federal prosecutor, the Presidential Records Act explicitly excludes agency records from the definition of presidential records. In other words, the president doesn't have the simple ability to simply say, all records are now presidential records. A CIA record comes across his desk, now it's magically a presidential record. That is not correct. So the Presidential Records Act does not apply in this particular case. Intelligence records, says Andy, compiled by the intelligence reports compiled by the Defense Intelligence Agency, CIA, NSA, FBI, other U.S. national security agencies are agency records. They are not presidential records by definition. The PRA excludes agency records from its coverage. And then you see him cite the so-called Clinton sock drawer case. And the Clinton sock drawer case is a little bit different. And so there's a lawyer who wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal talking about the Clinton case. Okay, that case involved non-classified tape recordings that Clinton made with historian Taylor Branch in anticipation of compiling a history of his presidency. Bekesha says those are presidential records, but they are presidential records, and he should have archived them with the National Archives. And instead, he hid them in a White House sock drawer until his term ended, and then he took them with him. But NARA had civil law authority under the Presidential Records Act. Did they, to compel the turning over of the tapes, or did they not? Those were presidential records. These are not presidential records, so the case doesn't really apply. The point here is that Trump should not be involving himself in abstruse legal discussions. This is what you hire a lawyer to do. Even I, a lawyer, whenever I'm involved, our company is involved in legal cases, you know what we do? We hire lawyers. This is like the first thing you do. You're the former president of the United States. I'm sure you have thousands of lawyers on your Rolodex. Just call one. Just call one and listen to them. And the reason I'm upset about this is because, again, if you're rooting for Trump to win the nomination and then win the presidency, you know what he needs to do? Avoid jail. You know what he needs to do? Not dump out all of his dirty laundry in public in the belief that somehow this is going to benefit him. As I've said before, first of all, every day you spend talking about Trump and his documents and election 2020 is they are not talking about Joe Biden, who's the actual subject of the 2024 election. But beyond that, it demonstrates a lack of focus not to be talking about how you're going to win in 2024. Instead, you're out there essentially handing material to the prosecutor. We'll get to that momentarily. First, the fact is that we are now spending more money than has ever been spent in the history of humanity. It continues year on year. Eventually, that bill is going to come due. Either it's going to come due in the form of higher interest rates that we're currently paying on our bonds, and we're going to have to pay all of that back. And that means we're going to have to either inflate the currency or we're going to have to increase the taxes. And when that sort of stuff happens, you probably should be diversified out of the American dollar. You should be worried about stagnation in the stock market. At the very least, you should have some of your assets in precious metals. Times like these are a great reminder to diversify a portion of your savings into gold. You can help do that with Birch Gold. They're who I buy my gold from, so do thousands of other concerned savers. As Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America are banding together to try to create alternative forms of currency so that they don't actually have to rely on the American dollar, the value of the dollar over the course of the next 20 years, well, it's in question. At the very least, you need to diversify the same way that all these countries are. They're actually investing in gold. Text Ben to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold today. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. Take action today. Text Ben to 989898 right now. Again, that's Ben to 989898. The CEO of Innovation Refunds and GetRefunds.com has been on TV explaining how they've helped so many small businesses with their ERC tax refunds. They've completed thousands of returns for different kinds of businesses, including over $700 million for construction companies and over $200 million in restaurants, bars, and hotels. Innovation Refunds has hundreds of 5-star Trustpilot and Google reviews and is certified with the Better Business Bureau. In just 8 minutes, you can easily start the process over at getrefunds.com. You could be on your way to receiving up to $26,000 per employee. The ERC tax credit is not a loan. It's a refund on your already paid taxes designed to let the business owner direct the refund money into anything the business needs to grow. It's money you can use to improve your business however you see fit. Go to getrefunds.com to start that process. And this is really taxes that you shouldn't have paid in the first place, and now you're getting a refund on the taxes that you did pay. There's no upfront charge. They're not going to get paid unless you get paid, so you really have nothing to lose. Innovation Refunds has already helped clients claim over $5 billion in payroll tax refunds through the ERC. They might be able to help your business too. Go to getrefunds.com or download the app from the App Store today. That's getrefunds.com today. Again, getrefunds.com today to get started. Getrefunds.com. So now we get to the actual meat of the interview with Bret Baier. And we've already set the predicate with the criminal charges that he is facing. So Trump is asked by Bret Baier, why didn't you just give the boxes back? Now, again, one of the charges in this case is that Donald Trump obstructed justice by telling his lawyers to turn all of the material over to the FBI and telling them that they had, and then he was simultaneously apparently shifting boxes around so his own lawyers did not know that he had classified material. And here's Trump just saying it.
I have every right to have those boxes. This is purely a Presidential Records Act. This is not a criminal thing. In fact, the New York Times of all had a story just the other day that the only way NARA could ever get this stuff, this back, would be please, 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 could we have it back?
And they
please,
asked for that.
Because they have no, we
They
were
did
talking.
ask for it.
No, and
they said,
I gave
can you
them
give the
some,
documents back?
and we were talking.
And then they said they went to DOJ to subpoena you to get them
Which
back.
they've never done before.
Right.
And in
but
all
why not
fairness,
just hand them over then?
because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over to NARA yet.
Okay, so he said he didn't want to hand it over to NARA, right? Which and then Bret Baier's like, so why do you have it in the first place? Why not just give it back to them? Like, why are you're accused of shifting around the boxes? What's the story?
You're quoted
And-
on the
no,
recording saying the document was secret, adding that you could have declassified it while you were president, but, quote, now I can't. You know, this is still secret, highly confidential. And the indictment cites the recording and the testimony from people in the room saying you showed it to people there that day. So you say on this, on
It
tape,
says just the opposite.
that you can't
And let me just
declassify it,
tell
so
you,
why have it? is
When
what
I
the question
said
is.
when I said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify.
And that's
Brett.
what you said. You didn't
I said
declassify
that. I said no. I said I couldn't.
could
but
have
that wasn't a
declassified it.
document, Brett. There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things.
Okay, so now he's trying to claim the papers that he was waving around. So he's claiming two separate things in these clips. Thing number one that he's claiming is, yes, I took the boxes and I was moving them around. That's the thing they're charging you with, man. His lawyers are like, what are you doing? It's like, yeah, I moved them out. They had my stuff in them. Why shouldn't I? Because they're literally accusing you of doing that thing. And then they subpoenaed those documents and then they raided your house and they found classified documents in the boxes that you were moving around. Don't say the thing. Don't do it. And then he says the other thing, right? He's asked about the transcript, or he is saying that he could have declassified the documents, but he didn't, and he's waving around papers. And now he's claiming those are just random papers, that he's like waving around a Newsweek article or something. And he's saying, I could have declassified, but I didn't declassify this paper. Okay, again, all of this, you can't compel a defendant to appear on the stand in his own criminal trial. Right? There's a right against self-incrimination in a criminal trial. You know what there's no right to? Not admitting outside interviews with Brett Baer to the court records. If you think Jack Smith's prosecutorial team wasn't watching the interview last night and taking clips of this and then just getting ready to enter this into the prosecutorial record, you got it wrong. If you root for Donald Trump, if you're a fan of Donald Trump, you have to be thinking this is not a smart move. What is the move here? Why is this smart? Why are you going on Brett Baer's show and then spilling all of this out? Why don't you just say it's an ongoing legal case and my lawyers are handling it? Alrighty, folks, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be getting into the mailbag. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.